It's time for Conversations with Bob and Sherry.
Hey, Bob.
Hello. Hi, Sherry. The TikTok CEO was asked by Congress, why do you not let your children on TikTok? He goes, well, I do, just not in countries where they have unlimited access. He goes, I'll let them on it in China because they are limited to 40 minutes a day. So
And he also said his kids are too young, right? And
I
TikTok
agree.
is creating so much
So
propaganda. But here's the
we
thing.
should have much more restrictions over children, and parents should never be, subverted on these issues of gender and values and morals and things like that. That
But
always
that's the
seems to be the case.
propaganda that's happening on TikTok. I mean, so I've been watching some of the hearings recently between Congress having a hearing on TikTok with the Chinese CEO. Number one, I believe they'll never going to ban TikTok. Okay, because you have the government saying TikTok's no good, but then our president's inviting TikTok influencers to
Right.
the White House to make TikTok videos to get him elected. Well, here's another thing. There was a black congressional congressman was on the steps of Capitol Hill with a bunch of people behind him. I forgot. I don't remember. I don't know his name. It was interesting to me because Fox News showed him saying one thing and MSNBC showed him saying another portion.
Oh, that's cool. Can you tell us the difference of what they?
Okay, the difference is on Fox News, they only show the portion where he said if you ban TikTok is racist, is, you know, you can imagine how the
Yeah,
conversation
I
is
think it was he
going.
the one that said there's 5 million Americans making a living on TikTok or
Well,
something.
okay, Fox News did not show that portion of his speech.
Oh, I
So
saw
the
it on Fox News.
really, so I
Yeah.
didn't see that in Fox News, but I saw that in NBC saying, 150 million people are on TikTok in America, and a lot of people are making a living. So he's a Democratic congressman. So his speech is not absolutely false. What he's saying is true. There are a lot of people, these TikTok influencers, are making a living on TikTok. And if you take TikTok away, these people actually have to go probably find a job. But then you do have other, Facebook and YouTube, and now you got Reel, and you mentioned Vine the other day when we had the
How
conversation.
many how many Americans are making a living selling illegal drugs?
I have
So
no idea.
I'm not equating the two, but it's a lot. I mean, our other illegal activities. So that's not a good argument to just say it's untouchable just because people, if it's harmful to kids or it's harmful in a certain way, then, it shouldn't just be totally off the table because people make money at it. I mean, that's an absurd argument because you could, if you applied it to everything else,
Well,
prostitution,
I want to, right,
gambling, you
gambling.
know,
Well, here's the thing. If we go back to how bad
a lot of people
TikTok
making
can
money
be,
off identity theft.
right,
Can't make that illegal.
then we can make that leap.
A
So
lot of
here's,
minorities making money in Jamaica. Seriously.
but
Anyway, sorry, guys.
here's what I would say about the TikTok and the influencer and the propaganda. I sent you a bunch of video on this guy, Dylan Mulvaney,
Right.
and he's a. If you read his Wikipedia page, he is a American actor. And I went back to his Instagram page all the way to the very beginning. He was apparently on a bunch of game shows. He was a struggling actor trying to find jobs. And he himself cannot compete in the world of entertainment with anybody, with men, straight men, gay men, or whatnot. He's not getting his footing. So during the pandemic, what he did is he come up with, I want to be a girl for 365 days. Now, I don't have a problem with anybody doing anything, but he got really popular and a lot of kids follow him, and he has a friend, Jeffrey something. I think they accuse him that Jeffrey got as a child groomer. But here's my problem with his first video. He said, this is what he said in the first video. And I sent you a bunch of links.
I
I know
watched
you're
them.
not,
I
okay,
I
good.
didn't watch them when you first questioned me, but I did watch. They were all
Okay.
short.
So
They're
what
just
was his
short.
first video? He said, It's my first day being a girl. I cried 3 times for no reason. I wrote a scathing email I did not send. I ordered a bunch of clothes online that I can't afford. Okay?
So he's making fun of women.
How offensive is that
That's
for
what it
women?
means to be a woman, Sherry.
How offensive. Number one, I don't remember I get up in the morning and cried at all because as a woman, I have responsibilities to my husband, to my kid, to my business. How many women, real women out there, get up and cry 3 times? No one. I mean, your wife working a very high pressure job. Does she get up and cry for no reason? No. And I don't remember the last time I write an email I did not send. Okay? And I don't order dresses I can't afford. Are you kidding me? I mean, how women are not up in arms and be offended by this guy, I don't understand. He makes a mockery of women. Mockery. Another one, he says, oh, I'm probably going to be the hottest I've ever going to look. And is it my hair? Is it my makeup? And by the way, I can probably steal your husband. No husband are going to look at that going like, wow, I'm going to give up my wife for this. Are you kidding me? Oh, is it the extension? Are women really that shallow? No, we have lives. We have people, obligations. We have responsibilities. He is living as a single man. That's what he's living as. He's not living as a woman. Neither is a girl.
In a female costume.
He's a man with female costume, and he got to go to the Whitehouse. He got to go to the Grammy. I wish Joe Biden never have invited one person from East Palestine to go to the White House to talk about their struggles. He has never invited one single mother who's living on food stamp and experiencing inflation. Now they're taking the food stamp away or decrease the value of the food stamp. Has he ever bring any of those people to the White House? No. He brought a guy who's mocking women and makes a ton of money. His net worth is now $1.5 million. Guess what? It's all coming from TikTok. I'm done. I have to get that out because I was so pissed off.
So, if you look at what people believe, if you understand how they view the world and what they believe and things like that, then you can disagree with it and say, well, how ridiculous it is, but it's predictable and it makes sense. Everything he said there is predictable. The fact that he gets away with it, not only does he get away without being criticized for it, he's encouraged. Why?
He's encouraged.
Why can this man disrespect
women?
Misogyny. This is misogyny towards
Exactly.
women. So the people who have been fighting for women's rights or claim to, why does he get a pass? It seems to make no sense.
No.
Okay. There's a thing called critical race theory. This is that thing they tell you doesn't exist. Okay. One tenet out of critical race theory is intersectionality. So critical race theory says that the dominant force in the world is power structures. It divides people by groups. And it says certain groups, if they have the power, they have the money, they have the control, they oppress the other groups. Now, what intersectionality says is, so under critical race theory, and it goes beyond race, obviously, white men are the oppressors. Women are oppressed. Black people are oppressed. All these other groups are oppressed. But with intersectionality, if you have a woman who's also black, that woman is more oppressed than a white woman. So technically, a white woman could be an oppressor of a black woman. Now, if you take a trans woman, they're higher on the oppression hierarchy, so they're allowed to do that because you're the oppressor, you women. That's not being said, but in that belief system, that's the way it is. So we're supposed to look at Dylan Mulvaney and say, this person is way more oppressed than Sherry and all these other women. They just got to get over it.
Well, you know
That's
what?
what they believe. It's
I'm not
absolutely ridiculous. But that's what they
I'm
believe.
not invited by the Grammy. I was never invited to the White House. Okay, I think
Wow.
Dylan Mulvaney, and here's the thing about
I
Dylan
think you're
Mulvaney,
doing the right thing, though, Sherry. You're calling it out because it's wrong.
it's
You're
wrong.
standing up for women and women's rights, and I agree with you. I
And
find
here's
it
another thing: who Dylan Mulvaney actually hurting real trans women,
well, that's true.
people that really struggle with their
You question the
identity.
sincerity of this trans identity.
Exactly. So he
You,
is not transitioning himself to
so
a woman physically. It just appearance.
So, like
It's
the men
always
in prison,
appearance.
when they hear about the new tolerance, diversity, equity, and inclusion over trans, the men that go, you know what? I'm a woman here. Move me into the women's prison, and then a bunch of women get pregnant. So that's kind of like Dylan Mulvaney,
Exactly.
opportunist.
That's what I'm saying. Dylan Mulvaney now is not only he made a mockery of women, he is hurting real trans women
Right.
and gay men. Right? I mean, I'm advocate for all those people, and
Well,
Dylan Mulvaney is the worst example. There was a black woman on. I was watching the shorts and played this. This is what this black woman said, and I agree with her. If somebody like Dylan Mulvaney put a black face on,
same
pretend
thing.
he's black, he would have been canceled. He would have been getting rid of. But ultimately, what he's doing, he's putting women face on, and he's widely accepted. And he's making a mockery. Now, if Dylan Mulvaney gets up in the morning and go through his transition, and he goes to work, he takes care of his family, whatever, he's living as a single man, and he's living large because he's a TikTok influencer. So
Right.
he is one of those 50 million people making a fortune because people are condoning this behavior. I mean, I want to call every man that have a woman face on to be canceled.
I'm with you. This is where the issue becomes with women's sports. So how come so many women in sports aren't calling this out? The ones that do get attacked. So that could be one reason. That's
I will
that's
be
another tactic.
forever advocating for women's sports, for women in general, any type of women. I don't care. A biological man cannot be competing in women's sport because women will get hurt. Not only get hurt potentially physically, okay? Women can also get hurt. Imagine how disappointing a girl that's working her entire life in a particular sports, and she's able to compete with her fairly with her peers. But now this guy just jumps up and go, "Oh, I'm a woman now. I'm going to compete with you guys." I mean, come on. What does a woman have to do to get ahead? Now, not only men was the oppressor, now we have transgender women to be the
You guys
oppressor.
got kicked to the curb. Sorry, you're not oppressed enough. And
Women,
this is now. Let me ask you a question. So the whole idea behind this belief system is to elevate the oppressed people and bring down the oppressors. So what happens when those ones you elevate become the oppressors? Does it all flip against them?
I think
Or
women,
no? I mean, the end result is communist China. We're going to make everybody equal. Everybody's going to have the
equally
same,
poor and
equally
equally
poor and
hungry.
destitute, and yeah,
I mean,
equally
that
poor and
happened, right?
non-free.
That happened in 1950s. What
It
do we
happens
have?
everywhere.
3 years of famine. Everyone's equally poor,
Yep.
equally hungry. 20 million people died. Guess who wasn't poor and hungry? The government officials.
It's the ultimate oppression. All this leads to is because you have freedom, which is messy, but people
Right.
thrive and good things happen under freedom. But the other one is the only way to make everybody equal is to have one or two, a small group of people that are in control making all the rules. Someone's got to come along and go, okay, that Sherry, you've got too much money. We got to take it off of you and give it to. So it all has to be dictated and controlled by some dictator,
Yep. Well,
or
I want to
party, all
I want to
powerful
go back
party.
once again about this white men at the top of the food chain and everybody's oppressed. Now we're competing who's being more oppressed. Do you realize a lot of these influencers out there claiming to be trans women? I don't believe every one of them are actually trans women. mostly are white guys. I don't see no black guys out there saying, I'm a trans woman, I'm going to be competing in women's sports.
Maybe not in
Why
the
is always
sports,
the
but
white dudes?
there. Our friend Eugene told me about some films to help me understand something that's going on, and it's really all about black and Hispanic, gay, lesbian, trans people. I mean,
Yeah,
so they're out there. White men vastly outnumber like black men,
vastly outnumbered. Yeah.
generally. So if you have an even amount percentage of black trans men and white trans men, there's going to be a heck of a lot more white trans men.
Yeah, but not the black trans women are not out there making the kind of money white trans women make,
I see.
right?
You're saying
Or
for the
competing in the sports.
opportunists.
Right. I
Yeah.
have not
Okay.
seen a black trans woman that's born biological men transition to women competing in sport.
Wasn't RuPaul black?
He's not claiming to be trans. He's a drag queen, but he's not. He's a gay
Okay.
man.
There's a
He's in
difference.
drag
School me.
as an artist. He's not claiming to be he's not saying I'm a woman. He said I just dress and drag. That's a big difference.
It just
But
popped in my head. I didn't think it through very well. Thank you.
listen, I think if you see this is what I think it will happen. If you see a black trans women compete in women's sports,
Right.
it will cause more of a criticism towards a black trans woman than a white trans woman. That's what I believe. That's
your
why you don't see
prediction?
a lot of it.
Let me wrap this up with one comment. As I watched our shorts of our last couple of, there's a lot of women this, women that sort of thing. So I just personally want to be clear on my position with women. I'm older. I was born in the early 60s. I've seen a lot of the women's rights movement, the feminism. If you recall any of the Dirty Harry movies, one of them involved a woman who was really an administrative person, but she was a cop, and then the mayor trying to do the, affirmative action, basically. She was forced on him to be a partner, and, he was all tough guy, against it and everything. By the end, he liked her, but she got killed and all that sort of thing. But anyway, I grew up through all of that. So I was skeptical of women doing certain jobs, like being a cop. A lot of the feminist movement and the women, I shouldn't say feminist because that's an ideological thing, but the women's rights movement, I think, has been very good. And there was a moment I had when my father broke his femur. He fell and broke his femur. So my son happened to be there. My son called the ambulance, and I rushed over. And the ambulance arrived, and there was a man and a woman, ambulance, EMTs. And they had to transport my father from his bedroom through a couple, tough turns, through a few doorways and out the front steps. So, and he's 200 pounds. So I'm like, she's going to need a little bit of help, right? So I'm like, well, actually, I didn't say that. I just thought, I'm going to help these guys because I can. Well, so I grabbed onto part of the stretcher and started to work. And, it was way heavier than I thought. And then I got pinned up against the doorway, and I had, I don't know. I wasn't trained, so I don't know that I was helping all that much. It seemed like every time I started to take some weight off, I got in a position where I had to let it go. But I watched this woman. She was not real tall, stocky, I mean, I watched the guy and I watched the woman, and to her, it was like nothing. It was just her job. She was just any other person doing her job. So we get to the hospital. We're in the emergency room. They sent a physician's assistant, very thin young woman, okay, not big in stature whatsoever. And he's laying there, and he's in severe pain. He's got a broken femur. So she has to set the leg. And so I'm sitting there watching all this. She said, look, this is going to hurt. I need to do this. It's, the pain will go away after, that kind of thing. She's got his ankle. She puts her foot up against the table, and she's like basically pulling with all her might. This is hard work, right? She's really pulling really hard, and he's in agony. But the whole time she's being, I know, it's good. I'm sorry. It'll be over soon. She just had this real comforting demeanor about her. She didn't seem to struggle physically at all. She set his leg, and, everything was done. And it's just after that one, I was reflecting on the whole day, and I was like, when I was younger, this never would have happened. Every one of those people involved in helping my father would have been men. And I'm like, I was impressed with the woman ambulance person, the EMT. She had no problem handling his stretcher. And then this woman, not only did she do her job very competently, but I think if I was laying there, I'd have rather had her pulling my leg and doing the pain than a guy. Because most men doctors in that position, they're like, you'll be all right. Don't worry about it. Not all, but, the old school doctors that I grew up with, they wouldn't have been all compassionate and comforting. They would have just been like, you're fine. Don't worry about it. I was just super impressed. In no way at all am I anti-woman or I think women don't belong in doing this or that. I mean, I really think we've made a lot of progress. And as a father of a daughter, I'm really happy to see it. My daughter's super self-sufficient, and, I'm super proud of her.
And that's part of being the oldest child, too.
I made a point to teach my daughter how to change a tire. Well, she was out in the minivan with 3 kids at the time in the van, and she got a flat. And she called me. I said, I'll be there. I'll help you. No, I can do it. So I'm like, all right, well, let me stay on the phone and just make sure you don't miss a step. Because if you do one thing wrong, it could be dangerous. So in other words, break the lugs before you jack it up. So I'm walking her through it. And then I hear, she's like, no, I'm fine. Some guy pulled over to help her out, and she sent him away. She's like, I got this. Go. So she fixed her tire. I mean, it was, she took the lugs off and it was stuck on. She had to hit it with the tire iron and everything, but the kids were out of the car. I don't know. My point is she was just totally comfortable and happy doing it herself. She didn't really want anyone helping her.
Well, I'm a big, I'm not into the whole, I don't do a lot of things on my own, and I'm completely embracing being a woman. And I always said, the feminist movement, this whole equality thing really ruined women's life, because I would have no problem being a housewife like my husband.
I agree with that 100%.
And I would be living very comfortably, but because of society the way it is, I'm out, I got to work just like my husband have to work. And, I always said to some of the people, I said, look, I think women are much better than men. If I have to carry a life, if I'm the only one are able to reproduce another human being, I should enjoy a housewife life. I should be able to stay home, cook and clean, be with my children. But one of the things I think will happen with this is, during World War II, a lot of women went to work and enjoy financial independence, enjoy, that type of freedom when their husband and boyfriend, whatever, out to fight in the war. And you can't put that genie back in the bottle, right? It's out. But if you remember, Dustin Hoffman was in a movie called Tootsie. Remember, he couldn't get a job as a man, so he dressed up as a woman and went out and got a job, right? Yep. That said a lot about when you have an economy transitioning from manufactured economy to service type economy, because women and men are built very differently. Women are way better when it comes to service type economy rather than men. Men's more into the manufacturing, the harder labor, that type of thing. But like I said, if you really want equality, are you going to have a women bricklayer? I'm not working on roofs. I don't want to lay bricks. I'll cook, I'll clean, I'll arrange flowers, but I'm not out there digging ditches.
See, you point out something that I think a lot of people miss in society. No matter what we do, there's going to be a bad side to it. In Christian, it's the sinful side. It's the sinful nature. So, in the secular world, they want to say there's good people and there's bad people. Mm-hmm. Okay. In the Bible, it says the line between good and bad runs between inside each of us. So we each have that potential for good and bad. So you're right. What happened was, and that's why I backed off of the word feminism as an ideology, because it sort of put women in a position at one point where they felt like they had to work, like they were less of a person if they didn't have a professional career. If all they wanted to do was raise their children and be good parents, they were considered less than. So kids got neglected, and women put up with things they didn't really necessarily want to. I see that coming back around. I mean, if you look at the millennial Gen Z age, you're seeing more and more stay-at-home moms that they choose to do that, and they're less materialistic than we were because they say, I'm okay making less money, but I'm going to be with my kids.
Oh, I think COVID did a lot of that, right? Because before COVID, I'm about running. I mean, I'm a wedding planner, so I don't, not a lot of straight men in that business, and mostly are gay men and women. So I'm comfortable in that arena. What's that?
Gay men and gay women, or just gay men and women?
Gay men and women. You don't see a lot of lesbian women in that business either.
All right.
So it's a very gender distinct business. So
okay. Yeah, more feminine.
More feminine and creativity, that type of thing. What really made me realize I wish I was a stay-at-home mom is COVID, right? Because I was forced to stop my life to be with my child. I took my kid out of school. I homeschooled him for a year.
So you saw what you were missing.
I saw what I was missing. I was with my child every day. We'll do homework we do school in the day. I make him breakfast, lunch, and then I will go out and we'll go take a walk. We'll walk our dogs. It was a fabulous year. I mean, not that I think it was right, the economy was shut down, but made me realize, my God, I wish I could be a stay-at-home mom. Look all the stuff I'm missing. I was able to teach him, educate him, and have fun with him at the same time. Yeah. That doesn't happen when we went back to work. It's double the time. So it was actually good that he come to work with us because we're able to spend that family time. And that's why even when COVID came back, and I said to my husband, I am not going to go out there to push my business. I mean, I built enough reputation. I was able to continue to make a living. I'm focusing on one big client or two big clients. But I want to be
that's when you refocused your business.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I actually refocused before that because when he turned 4, I was like, wow, I really missed a lot.
Okay.
If I'm able to be home I think a lot of women, once they have children, the desire of being home is great. The desire of getting up in the morning to make breakfast and clean up and have a late lunch or early dinner, it was enjoyable. Mm-hmm. But now when you don't have that, I'm craving for that. And you can't tell me any women out there with children say, no, I wish I could work more. I don't want to spend any time with my child, right? I don't think that exists. If that exists, you should not be a mother. Now, men, on the other hand, will want to go out, work, and, do whatever. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's ingrained in us. It's in my DNA as a biological female. I can't help myself.
Mm-hmm. No person on their deathbed ever looked back on their life and said, I wish I spent more time at work.
Exactly.
They ask people in hospice what they regretted or what they wish they had done differently.
Travel more.
One of the number one things was in every one of these articles was travel more. Buy less things and travel more.
Yeah, because what are you doing with all the materials? You can only wear so many clothes. Right. You can only eat so many good food. I mean, the family
we haven't invested in our house like most people would in cars and things like that. But I'll tell you what, I don't regret a bit of it. It's just, even though sometimes we're going to the same places all the time. It's just getting away and, there's just something about those memories. They stick with you more than anything else.
Absolutely. We probably had the least amount of material things during COVID because all our business were stopped. And thankfully, my husband always stocked up the freezer. So we basically ate what's in the freezer. I remember the first month I realized we're not coming back to work. And that realization sank in. I just went to Restaurant Depot, bought a case of apple, a case of oranges. And that's what I did. I'm like, okay, you want to have fruit? There you go. Eat. And because a lot of my friends was able to work home with income. Mm-hmm. So my son will go to other people's houses and go like, why can't we get some grapes? Why can't we get this? I'm like, well, because guess what? Mommy and daddy don't have a regular job. So when it dries up, we have to be careful with our spending. So that's what we did. But that year we really had the most, I think I was happiest since I had my kid, to spend that solid year with him. I think it was 18 months. So, and I remember we had a puppy right before the pandemic, and I even said, wow, what is this puppy going to do when my son goes to school? Because this little
Used to
dog,
having people home all day, yeah.
18 months, 24/7. And, but it was a great memory,
Yeah.
I mean, I probably don't mind to have another. I mean, I know we're never going to have that again, but it was at a that's why I suggest every parent, if you have a chance, if you have the opportunity, homeschool your kid for 1 year. It will be amazing experience.
Wow.
Yep. So with that
I really
said,
appreciate you sharing that. That's awesome.
thank you.